This video we will be looking at completing the square. So completing the square is something a lot of the higher candidates may have heard of before. Completing the square is used to find the turning point of an equation or a graph. So have a look at the diagram at the bottom, and the turning point would be the bottommost point, so where the graph goes from going downwards to back up. Now the general form of something that has already had completing the square applied to would look like this. So when we do our answers for these kind of questions, we're going to want an answer that looks like this. And the way we turn that into that turning point is through this. So the negative version of A is the x coordinate for our turning point, and B is the y coordinate. So let's have a look at an example here. So let's say we've got the quadratic x squared plus 8x plus 15. Now I've got some bullet points on the right hand side. These are the steps we're going to want to take. It's a bit of a weird method to how we get there, but it's one of those things that once you have enough practice and you remember it, not too bad at all. So we start off by halving the x value, and that goes within that squared bracket. So straight away we go to something that looks somewhat like our answer. Now our next step is we have to take the negative of the square of the number we just created. So we just halved the 8 to make 4. We have to take the negative of the square of that and put it outside the bracket. I'll show you at the end why we do this. And then we just add the 15. That just stays there as normal. And our final step is we simplify. X plus 4 squared minus 16 plus 15 gives us minus 1. And as you can see, we've got it in that form of x plus a squared plus b. So, converting that into a turning point, we know that it was negative of the a value, so we take negative 4, and then the b value follows. So the turning point for this equation is minus 4 minus 1. So if you were to draw it out, for example, then you know that turning point is at minus 4 minus 1. So it would look something like this, where the line goes like this. So this is really useful for when it comes to sketching your graphs out, especially if you consider doing A-level maths. This is used all the time in that. Okay, so back up to the step I promised a minute ago. Why is it that we do the negative 16 plus 15? Well, believe it or not, these two are actually the same thing. If we were to expand out the x plus 4 squared, so take these two here, and they're actually the same. So if we were to expand out the x plus 4 squared, we're going to get x squared plus 8x plus 16. If we take into account what's outside the bracket, we've got minus 16 plus 15. And you can see quite quickly these two are going to cancel, which gets us back to our original quadratic. So the reason we do that negative of the square is so that if we expand out those brackets, these two terms here will cancel out. So it seems weird, but it does work. A lot of the examples are going to be very, very similar to this. You may have some negatives, but you follow the exact same steps and use these bullet points here and you cannot go wrong. The only other thing for the really high candidates, so level 8 and 9, there will be situations sometimes where you have a 2 or a 3 as the x squared coefficient. So the number in front of the x squared might not be 1. The thing you do there is you factorise the 2 or 3 out first, if it's possible, and then you can go through this process as normal and then factor in the 2 back at the end. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that helped.